Shinji Miyazaki, Game Freak, Sound Team, talk about Pokemon music. We're here to talk about the Poke Papas. Last time I talked about Satoshi Tajiri. Well, this time I'm going to talk about the sound programmer for the first video game entry in the Pokemon series: red, blue, yellow, green. His name is Junichi Masuda. There are a number of people who are integrated into this article. This was actually, it's not an article, it's from a booklet included with the TV anime Pocket Monsters original soundtrack, best 1997 to 2010 CD box set. So if you have that CD box set, make a video or just tell us in the comments below. But these four members are, I'm going to quiz you on this later: Shinji Miyazaki, the composer of the anime OST slash arranger; Junichi Masuda, who is the director of the sound programming for red, blue, yellow, etc. He's also a director as early as Gen 3 of the whole game of Ruby, Sapphire, Emerald. Go Ichinose, who is the sound leader of the game series, Pocket Monsters; and Hitomi Sato, don't know, sound staff member of the game series Pocket Monsters. So in the discussion, I talk about a number of things like the musical roots of the Pokemon sound team. So Masuda's part, he's talking about how in third and fourth grade, he had like soundtracks to movies that he really liked. A couple, I guess, Japanese ones or some. I don't know what these are. Maybe you guys know. The Bridge on the River Kwai actually sounds Chinese now that I'm hearing it. And Ben Hur. And the thing that stuck out to me was that at that time he listened to them and tried emulating them with his recorder. So at that time, you can see that like he's got these musical roots. He's very interested in like replicating music. And to my understanding, the best way to learn an instrument is to think about your favorite songs and try and just replicate them and just have fun that way. So this guy's a musician. After that, he gets into techno in like fifth or sixth grade, so on and so forth. He had a radio cassette player. I thought this was funny. He was the only kid in school that listened to rock and Western music. And at one point in high school, he was part of a brass band and liked Marilyn Manson and Slipknot. But
Yeah.
let's Go Ichinose says his taste in music is reflected in the battle tracks. Clearly. In the case of the anime, a menu is written beforehand to fit scenes and characters. How are they produced in the case of the games? The interviewer asks. So what's interesting is with the anime, they make the music before the scenes. But with the games, they're saying they let the people in charge of the sound actually play the game and then produce the tunes. So they'll be like playing Pokemon and then thinking, how would I make a song that fits this? And I have one example here. It's a scene where you walk through a city. We produce thinking how the main character feels. Also in the game, the timing of the scene changes is entirely up to the player. That's why the tunes always loop. If we think at this moment, I'd like to build up excitement and add figures somewhere, chances are the player doesn't switch scenes during that moment. So it's a very conscious process by which they make the music, especially considering how, like let's say you discover that, I guess in an RPG, the thing that you've been looking for or that person, you can't just program the excitement to hit. So it just has to be innately built into the song. I can think of a couple tracks where that hits, playing the original games. Definitely in like Saffron City when you're, it's kind of got this mysterious element to it. And then when you go in like the Team Rocket headquarters. So I could think about it sometimes. But the sub guy, Ichinose, says being able to produce while looking at the screen would be the most ideal way. But since scenes are still being produced during development, we work with just our imaginations sometimes. Another topic, Miyazaki-san, on the other hand, uses the game tunes as bases to extend arrangements to be played by an orchestra for an anime. What are the difficulties you experience? So I don't know how familiar you guys are with the anime OST, but it is basically orchestral versions of the video games soundtracks. So Miyazaki says during the early days of Pokemon, the number of sounds that could be played at once was low. Masuda adds, Yeah, during the days of Red and Green, it was 3 sounds plus background noise. And Miyazaki says, so there were sounds that didn't resonate, da 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 da. I wondered if Masuda-san would like this. And Masuda says, I think you did great. I feel like you picked up my sounds. Like I would have created these the same way. Miyazaki says there's an opening piece that's often used in movies. Disc one, track 1 to 3. I think that's my number one. The tune itself is good, but I also think if it wasn't for that piece, the situation regarding Pokemon music might not be like this today. And I think I know the one he's talking about, like da 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 da. And I it got me thinking that like the Pokemon music really is classic, and it has this kind of thing that like is part of the whole package. It's the cuteness of the monsters, it's the nostalgia of the music, the life of like the environments, and I think like the heartwarming story. So, you know, I think Masuda, for not only he's a programmer for the game, but for the music, but also the game, and he went on to become a director of like a standalone full generation later. So, I think his resume is pretty impressive. I'll
Wow.
stop there.
Yeah, the Pokemon soundtrack's so freaking good. I think I learned the Pallet Town theme song on the bass. Although you can play it on the guitar, but yeah, really just great music. It's cool to see that he had so many Western influences because Ben Hur, I believe, is British, right? I think, and then all the River Kwai, I think that's a war story, but I'm not very educated on that one. But yeah, that a lot of like Western influences going into that. So I'm really kind of shocked because I always thought that that was a very Japanese centric like soundtrack.
He's very adamant too about preserving kind of like the outside influences. I have another quote here. There aren't that many no goes getting submitted, but for example, while the Johto region had cities around Kyoto serving as models, I said something like, don't make it too Japanese. By adding non Japanese music to a Japanese place, I want to create a new, slightly different worldview. And you can see that too with the Slipknot conversation, etc.
Yeah.
He's cultured, so I appreciate that.
And now I'm just imagining Slipknot doing the Pokemon stuff. Ah, was a Squirtle before I began. Got a Zubat in the end. It's
It's
fucking
I'm not sure I've ever heard the term Slipknot and cultured in the same sentence, but I suppose when you're talking about like cross like regions, it would be culture because it's a different culture.
It's cross
yeah.
cultural. Yeah, so
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
different.
I
It's
wonder.
interesting.
I wonder if nine dudes from Iowa know that they had that much influence on Pokemon. No, I mean, like the whole time you were talking about that, I just like, and I couldn't do this for any other generation. Just Gen 1 songs. I had like 4 or 5 different songs like running through my head, and I can't like tell you the names of them, but I know that they're from Gen 1. And yeah, it just had like a very distinct sound even coming out of the fucking Game Boy.
Dude, yeah, Gen 1, it's crazy that with only 3 sounds that it was so memorable. What's revealing too is later in the interview, he's saying, "I'd like a small message from everyone. Lately, I've done nothing but battle tracks, and I feel how bad they resemble each other." So you can see that like the future of the series, like they start to run out of the creativity. Yeah, that first gen, I mean, you could just start humming them along. They're really good. So it's like the pillar of the creativity for the Pokemon line in my mind.
I was always so interested in how they did the MIDI tracks back then because I don't know if they had this technology back then, but nowadays I think you can hook up a guitar to a MIDI recorder and like produce like get the different tones out of it. And I don't have that technology, but I through GarageBand you can set up MIDI tracks and just create your own MIDI files through different sounds, and it's a little tedious. So I'm always curious if they did that back then, or if they had the technology to just put a guitar in, because they're so fast sometimes. It sounds like a guitar instead of a manually done.
This interview didn't do a great job of elucidating that, but it did talk. He did mention that he got a synthesizer when he was younger, like a MS something.
Ooh, yeah. Ugh.
So he was pretty skilled with that.
That's so cool. I'm jealous.
Oh, and I like to think that like games like the like Gen 1 Pokemon influence like there's like a whole music scene of that now of like MIDI inspired rock music. Like
Yeah.
I think the biggest one I can think of is Anamanaguchi. They did like the music for like the Scott Pilgrim game and stuff. They do like a lot of their own stuff. And there's like other bands that use like chip tunes in their music. Like I'm a big fan of the band I Fight Dragons, and they use like Game Boy in their music. I
Really?
like even live, yeah. They like have Game Boys and stuff hooked up with like cartridges of like MIDI stuff that they made, and they'll play alongside of it, or like they'll have like controllers that'll make certain noises. We push certain buttons, and somebody will like be playing that as one of the instruments, and it's really neat. And I like to think that maybe like something like the Gen 1 Pokemon really inspired that.
Yeah. Really cool stuff.
My papa, my RPG papa.
All right, we gotta go back. This is like last fucking September or something. But we have to go back to the same mindset. Teddy, give me a location.
Iceland.
Iceland?
Yeah.
You're in Iceland for a ice convention in Iceland.
Can I correct you?
No, because I'm the prophet.
True. All right.
What?
There's an old expression. I got this from D2, the Mighty Ducks.
Oh no.
Greenland is full of ice, and
I know
Iceland is
this.
very nice.
You're telling me they can't hold an ice convention in Iceland? That's where I would hold it.
No, I mean, supposedly Greenland is much colder. Iceland is more grassy most of the time.
Teddy, you're in Iceland for an ice convention.
The only one.
And you, while admiring an ice sculpture of I don't know, fucking name a Pokemon. Name a random Pokemon.
Elder.
Shelder ice sculpture. You meet, what's his name again?
Oh, Junichi Masuda.
Yeah, that. You meet Junichi Masuda, and you could ask him one question. What would it be?
Ooh.
Make a video response.
That's actually kind of genius. We could get him to make a video response to us.
No. Our segment on him. Things we got right and wrong.
Yeah.
Question for him?
That's the question. Well, if Game Talks, you can put Q and then make a scenario. Scenarios make a video response.
Well, what's your question for him?
What did we do?
Yeah, how accurate were we? That's a
What
question.
do you think? You think about the episode RPG Dads?
He said, "I like corn, not Slipknot."
He just goes off like a solo. He goes off like a
It's a freak
an
out.
acapella solo. Yeah.
There you have it. Junichi Masuda and Corn. Corrected.
Hey y'all, don't forget to subscribe to them button mappers.